and which are the so-called real thing. If the skeptics are right, for the past 3 decades, humans have been turning out in increasing numbers each summer, giving up a night's sleep, all for the sake of pulling someone's leg or creating art. Could humans have really made all of these amazing things under cover of darkness in a few hours? If so, why? It's time to meet the circle makers. They come from a surprising number of different camps. Some do it as a hoax, others to create their own paranormal experiences, and yet others to make art and money. First up, the circle makers who are certain it's all a hoax. 14 years ago, Dr. Robin Allen and Chris Nash joined up with like-minded college students and decided to have some fun with crop circles. They figured the simplest way to find out if humans were making the circles was, well, by making one. They had a few practice runs in the daylight. Then they took to the fields at night.
We started making circles in 1991. We made about 3 then. We kept going back year after year. They're getting bigger and more complex. I think we probably made about 50 or 60 in the end.
Repeatedly, the circles they made were cited as authentic paranormal formations by the crop circle experts. Today, Chris and Robin examine the handiwork of the star-shaped formation on David Hughes' farm. In their eyes, signs of its human makers are obvious. You just have to want to find them.
So you can actually reverse engineer how a formation was made by looking at the construction lines.
Circles may look complicated, but are basically simple geometry. One maker stands at a center point, while another walks around him with a set length of line or measuring tape. This forms the rim of the circle. To create the first corner of the square, they measure out a set distance from the circle's edge to a point along the tractor line. From that point, they use the same rope that created the circle and run it back along the edge. This takes them to the base of the next corner. From here, it's just a matter of repeating the same measurements. When it comes to the interior ornamentation, the makers can do whatever strikes their fancy. Robin and Chris made circles as a lark, but discovered that they were simply feeding the craze. While knocking down wheat, they left bands and weave patterns that believers thought no human could make.
You get this so-called feathering effect, which used to be deemed a mark of authenticity. That just happens when you flatten stuff with the board, it just goes into the side. We found at one fell swoop that actually virtually all of these features are just artifacts of the manufacturer.
We weren't doing this deliberately, and it was the experts who came in the following day and found all these things, like all the other genuine circles, as they would say.
We used a garden roller mostly. We also used our feet, used our hands, and we used body rolling. We just rolled around, and they couldn't tell the difference.
Chris and Robin hung up their stock stoppers in 1999. Nearly 10 years into it all, the thrill was gone.
I was just disillusioned with the fact it was no longer a challenge to beat the experts.
While one generation has moved on, another, even more diverse group has taken its place. Some of these newcomers are even believers of a sort. Meet Matthew Williams. He views crop circles as temporary temples. He believes that circles, his circles specifically, generate paranormal phenomena. Before he starts work, he calls on a higher power.
Great universal intelligence is looking down on us tonight. Please give us the inspiration that we require to complete this circle. Also, please give us protection whilst we are working in the fields tonight. And also, can this formation be instilled with energy that will inspire people who look upon it, and also give healing to those that might enter this formation. Amen.
Out in the fields at night, Matthew has had experiences that he can't explain. Unknowingly, he once created a circle that believers said they had visualized.
And I got the inspiration to go out on my own one night, just as a single circle maker, and actually put this formation within a couple of 100 feet of the people who were asking for it.
Like many believers, Matthew has also seen strange balls of light out in the circles, and they've left him baffled.
I still don't know to this day, and me and my friends, you know, still talk about that.
Matthew Williams makes circles for spiritual reasons, but it's landed him in the hot seat. He was arrested and fined after admitting to one, earning him the singular honor of having a criminal record for making circles. Art aside, why would anyone risk arrest to make circles?
My observation is that it's a unique manifestation of male energy. It's kind of adolescent, but I can relate to it. You know, I think there's a part of any guy willing to go out in the middle of the night and sweat and get dirty to make it happen.
It's because it fulfills a need they have. They want a little excitement in their lives. And you'd be surprised at what people will do to make sure they get into the newspapers or get interviewed or can show up on the edge of the crowd while people are all looking at this wonder. They get a big kick out of this. This is something that's worth a lot of work.
For years, believers trailed suspected circle makers in hopes of catching them in the act. Believers bought night vision gear, set up stakeouts, and tailed suspects. It became a game of cat and mouse. The believers never caught anyone red-handed, and the animosity between the two groups deepened. Making circles and running circles around believers isn't just a strange hobby. People can make money doing it. One band has created so many circles, they've made a business of it.
Our group's called Circle Makers. Well, I think some of the researchers refer to us as Team Satan.
Why are these artists demonized? Because they make no bones about cashing in on crop circles. They claim to be tops in the crop circle making field and charge accordingly. Are they as good as they think? We're going to put them to the test. Crop circles began to make news in the 1970s and were just what you'd expect, simple circles. Then, with time, they grew in size and complexity.
People have pointed out that crop circles have gotten more complex over time. I think they're following our culture, not leading it. During the 80s, fractal geometry became a big thing. Fractal geometry hit the crop circle field in the early 90s. You start to see things that look very digital, very much like pixels, just as we're starting to use computers and have computer monitors a lot.
Today, some believers in the paranormal argue that many crop circles are just too big and intricate for people to create in a short summer night. We'll see if a three-man team of artists can produce a complex formation in under 5 hours, about the length of an English summer night. We'll be looking over their shoulders in a field of our choosing.
Actually, the best way to do this is actually to stomp in for fur.
Using the latest computer software, the circle makers have plotted out a square spiraling formation. At first glance, it looks simple, but no one's ever tried this pattern before, and with good reason. After they mark off the exterior circle, they'll have to work their way in toward the center. They must make every corner turn at exactly 90 degrees, and each line must be perfectly straight. If not, their errors will be compounded as they spiral inward, and they'll end up with a lopsided mess instead of a perfect square. To get around a field without leaving marks, they follow tractor or tram lines.
No, you don't. You do not step in any crop that is standing ever, under any circumstances.
Tools are simple. A few stakes to mark off key points, surveyor's tape, and specially made stock stompers. Coming into Wiltshire in broad daylight carries risks for the circle makers. Farmers despise them because of the damage they cause. And many believers hate them simply because they make circles. How does that make them feel?